Hi folks, how you doing? RussellTrueResults303.com. Check out the website Mind Body Spirit Fitness. Links in the description box. Coming at you today with a video on marriage, relationships. This one, of course, is the evolution of marriage. I was listening to something the other day, brought up some topics, of course, with me being a Catholic man, Christian man, tying that in at the end. Stay tuned. Don't be afraid. Listen to it. See what happens, right? So, this was a talk by Stephanie Coontz, Coontz, and she is a history major that specializes in marriage, I think it was. So, I brought some of her concepts to this table, tying into Christianity, like I said. Stay tuned. Don't turn away. Hear it out. You might learn something. Hopefully you learn something. So what it is she kind of went off of the old ways of marriage, which would be more of a biblical term, which of course is marriage is for the man to protect the woman. Of course, in biblical times, they say the woman had no right to vote. I mean, it's very clear here in the United States, it was, women didn't have many rights until, the mid-1900s when they got that. I think it's the 1900s. Don't quote me on that. My history is horrible. So yeah, it was to protect a female, a woman who was struggling in a society that was trying to suppress her. And we have that as biblical proof in the Bible with Onan, or even just in general, where they say if a lady is widowed, the brother of the husband should come in and take the place. And that's where Onan comes into play. Whole play on contraception in the Catholic Church. I'll leave it at that. Next, so what she came up with as she went back even further than biblical times, because I think the Bible's around 2000 BC, maybe 3000 BC. She goes back into 10,000, 15,000 BC. It was more used as for peace treaties, right? So two tribes would come together. Maybe one tribe wasn't as strong as the other tribe, so they would give the females away as brides for peace treaties and to create relatives, and to be able to build a bigger family. So it's almost like a way of self-preservation for the weaker tribes, okay? Which is fine. I can go with that. I can understand that. Next, she came up with, it was giving a bride away as a gift. I have a friend, an old friend that family was from India, and there was those arranged marriages and how they still do that, right? And you give cows and calves and lambs and land, whatever the case may be. So it's for personal gain. And what she had discussed was back in ancient times, or, we'll go as in America now, you give a gift $500, you're supposed to give another gift for $500, equal value. But back in ancient times, that was more of an insult. So if you were only to give a gift of equal value, you were insulting that person. So you always had to give a gift of higher value, of greater value. And I guess what greater value can you give someone than the gift of your family, your daughter, to marry a son, right? Because of course we all know women are able to give the gift of life and create a baby, create offspring, right? Create the relatives that we talked about before in that first one. So, of course, if you had many female daughters, you were able to have more wealth because you're able to give them away, and eventually someone's going to give you back tenfold of what you have given them. Next, it went to the craziness of just marrying within your own family because you wanted to keep the wealth you've gained and you didn't want anyone to have it. Now, she didn't explicitly say it would be marrying your own sister or your own cousin, first cousins. She didn't say exactly what relatives, but in that sense it was marrying your own relatives to keep the wealth within the family and making sure that nobody else can take that wealth from your tribe, from your family, whatever the case may be. Now, to me, she said she thought the one of men protecting women was false, and those were the ones that she gave, but I think that one is still valid, but that would be maybe more for the poorer communities, right? That's why the man would be the protector of a woman in the poorer communities, kind of like in the Bible when Joseph married Mary. She was only a young girl, but it was out of protection and things like that, because the young girl's not going to have any protection or guidance in the ancient times of biblical times. But the other three, for relatives or peace treaties, or for gain of power or to keep the wealth, those to me seem like more of a higher class society. Either way, to me, they all seem valid, even though she thought the first one was a lie that we have been told, because women could fend for themselves. But for me being a Christian man, they all do make sense. So in my opinion, this is where God comes into play. This is where Jesus comes into play. This is where marriage becomes a sacrament. It's no longer just a contract or a cup, but it is a sacrament. And I heard a quote the other day that said, marriage is impossible without God. Or marriage is impossible for humans. But with God, anything is possible. That's why marriage is a sacrament. Something along those lines. I probably messed it all up. But that's why it's a sacrament. Even in the Bible, when they talked about divorce, Jesus said, well, Moses only allowed you to divorce because of the weakness of your heart or something like that. I say what God bonds together, let no man tear apart. And I think we have lost that. That's why we've got to understand when God intervenes in these beautiful ways, it's to let us understand the truth of marriage or the truth of the subject. And I think, as you can tell from all of those examples of the evolution of marriage, you can see that once again it was the human being taking the beauty of marriage and distorting it to fit its own needs, which is what we do every day in life, right? We all have excuses why we don't go to church, or we don't exercise, or we don't do this. And it's for a selfish reason. It's for ourselves. Even today in society, people marry just for money, right? Or because that person has higher power. Some people will marry into political life. Movie stars only marry movie stars a majority of the time. They don't marry someone else. So I think this is where God intervened, and Jesus made it a sacrament and showed us the real beauty of marriage, which is a man that loves a woman unconditionally and not only wants to have a family, but wants to make sure that she grows spiritually, she grows mentally, she makes it to heaven. They raise saintly children. They become saints together. Unity of that family. That's the true evolution of marriage. When God and Jesus intervened and said, hey, you're doing it all wrong. This is what it's truly about. And of course, we as humans, it's a hard concept to grasp. So we ourselves are falling short daily. You can see with the divorce rate being so high. And I think it's just because we don't follow, of course, the other rules that come along with marriage, or the other things that we should expect when finding that person that we want to spend the rest of our lives with. But anyway, so there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video, the evolution of marriage, why marriage is so sacred in Christianity, in spirituality, in the family, in society. So I hope that helped. Subscribe to the channel, share and like these videos.